That's why they're like,
Chair Morse, make an announcement.
Go ahead.
¿Alguien va a necesitar interpretación hoy noche? Gracias.
I needed you for the Super Bowl. I couldn't get it in English, all I could get was the Spanish word, spoken version.
Subtitles.
Okay, let's go ahead and call to order. First order of business, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everybody. C, approval of the agenda. Looking for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve as presented.
I second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, next up is comments from the public. Mr. Superintendent, would you give us those, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had two public comments. The first commenter recommends a bike training program for getting kids to school. The second commenter makes one point. They request transparency and understanding of the funding available for middle school sports. I would comment that, of course, the first comment we would be open to looking at. The second one, we did a little research once that had come in. I have been generally aware that we do cross-country and track and field with those funds. Have learned that we also do several clubs at each building. It is a co-curricular fund. The methodology that we use will take a little bit of work to get through. We do not have stipends in our contract. Our football coaches at the high school, our volleyball coaches have a stipend number, which is basically do the duty and you get this stipend. It's not an hourly pay. We've added these back. Those middle school sports stipends are not defined in the contract and they are being paid on an hourly basis for those employees. And so we will have to do a little research as to what that total is. I couldn't tell you right now what the methodology is that we limit that by. Like how many staff do we have out for coaching a track team? Is it so many per the number of students? So we'll have to do a little work there. And that will require some history mining from the books to see what the actual expenditures were. So it is point well taken. We probably need to look at codifying those into stipends for coaches by sport as we move forward.
Go ahead.
If I might, Superintendent, Mr. Chairman, thank you. As I understand it, one, the issue of transparency is we should work to get better at that all the time, particularly by budget cycle, I guess, when you've got a budget of $110 million and you have 1,000 employees and you have 9,000 students. Just the sheer numbers make, you can try to be transparent, but unless you have it's hard to get into the details of any budget that far. And as I understand the program, it's previous board and previous budget committees and the last one as well included $50,000 a year per middle school to do some extracurricular sports or club activity, and they're doing that with paid personnel, either at the school or if there's an event that's outside the school, of course they would do that. And I think that the author alluded to JBO and Pop Warner, which are outside of school funds, if you will. So I don't know what, I've yet to learn all the strings that come attached with the money we get, particularly from the state. But it's probably unlikely that we could just be giving grants to outside entities who are doing sporting events. For those of us who have kids that have been involved in extracurricular stuff, it's the fact that there's a cost to it is unescapable. I have been concerned about the affordability across the board. I think many in the community have. So that leaves us individually to do what we can. And I don't know how you get to the numbers for Pop Warner. I mean, it's just $300-400 a kid, and I don't know how you get meaningful help there. But as it relates to JBO, as I understand it, the Corvallis Knights are going to pass through some grant money to the JBO program. When my father passed away last May, we started a deal with the Albany Public School Foundation that will become an endowment over time. And we look to get that money through the foundation to those programs in a way that I think the district will need you to play a role, but we hope to get some money out the door this spring for that. So that it's a big issue. The sheriff will tell you that he's never picked up a kid and taken him to juvenile detention off a ball field or a choir or anything of that nature. And so it's also a community responsibility and not just that of the school district or the board, and it's out there, and I want to thank the writer for raising the attention, but we should move forward accordingly. Thank you.
I think one of the other things is, I believe this began 2 years ago, where we began.
This is the second year.
Yeah. And I know that bargaining in that previous year was a very busy time. I think to determine stipends and stuff like that, obviously would be a conversation to be bargained with the union to establish that. And then I think we could have a better understanding of our costs, but we'll work to let you know what we are expending and what that will end up being as we go forward.
Michael?
Yeah, when we signed up for middle school this year, at the beginning of the year, there was a sign that said fees for extracurricular activities are waived. Is that is that part of the 100,000 beyond?
Those, had
That's
they been
just
collected,
straight.
could offset, but that was.
Student
waived.
Success Act,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's just pure 250,000 per school.
50,000 per school per year. So one of the things that's, I mean, like, obviously it was a long time ago, but when I was in school, middle schools had sports, they've gone away. They're coming back, Lebanon, Corvallis, other places have them. We're kind of the odd man out now. And it really makes sense to involve our children in our own schools and get school spirit and have them involved with their teachers and hopefully good mentors. So I'm really excited about the fact that we're doing it. But like the superintendent says, we need to give a little bit more fidelity to it and figure it out. Like I know they've hired a middle school AD kind of type person, but okay, let's track it. Let's see where the money's going. Let's make sure it's getting used correctly and getting kids out in sports and, like Roger says, out on the fields instead of doing things that they might not really should be up to. So Great. Any other more comments on either public comments? Okay, next up, board business. The first one is the pre-planning meeting schedule update. So this is actually a change that I'm looking for. In the past, so prior to me being the chair, we went back and forth between the vice chair and chair, and then one of the other three board members. So vice chair or chair was there every other, and one of the three was there every third. What I'm looking for is to have the chair and vice chair there whenever available, and when one of us are gone, to have one of the three here available to do it. Really, that's to just get a drumbeat. When I was vice chair and I was only seeing every other one, I didn't feel like I was as knowledgeable as I do now that I'm going to all of them. So what I'm looking for here is some support on that.
I would move approval as presented, and I would like to comment.
Go ahead.
Just for the sake of continuity, you may have some things that you want to have on the agenda, but there are 9 things on one meeting, and you don't want to go till midnight, so you limit it to 7. If you don't have the same people at the table next time, those things easily fall through the cracks. So it just makes sense to me, as long as the chair and the vice chair have the time to do that. And I would urge my fellow board members to support the motion.
The other thing that I would say thank you to that got brought up is the idea that at one point, that was some of the only time you'd have one-on-one with the superintendent. The superintendent has graciously said any board member who wants time with them can have it monthly. And I do think that's important too. You know, all of us need to be able to speak to the leader of the organization. Okay, so looking for a motion?
Yeah.
I second that motion.
I have discussion.
Okay, go ahead, Eric.
So I appreciate the elected board members at this table. You guys are very receptive to our comments. Before I was chair, it went chair, vice chair, chair and another board member, and then chair, vice chair. So you would end up maybe a couple times a year getting to sit on a pre-planning meeting. I want to stress the amount of transparency that we need to speak through the superintendent to the fellow board members. When we had Melissa Goff's contract renewal, I was not part of that at all. I did not know about it. It was a 6-month operation done with attorneys and contract agents, and I didn't know about it till we sat in a meeting, and it wasn't even on the agenda. So transparency is super important for the fellow board members to still know what's going on with the agenda. We still need to know, but I will support the motion today.
Okay. Hey,
So, just clarification, isn't the process now, when is the agenda posted? The agenda is posted on Friday, correct?
Friday before the Monday meeting, so it
That's-
was posted.
That's 4 days, and by government standards, that's a lot. A lot of notice, if you will, and as long as we have the process in place where the agenda has to be approved by a majority of the board first thing at the meeting, the 3 members who are not the vice chair or the chair could add or remove any item at any time at the beginning of any meeting. So as long as we follow the process, I'm pretty confident that this will work.
And I would tell you all that if there was something I knew that was controversial, I would make sure you had a heads up about it.
Well,
One-on-one.
you have to be careful and do that in a way
Right.
that doesn't violate a public meetings law.
I understand that. But I also know what topics are important to everybody. Okay, so we've had a motion, we've had a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, and I believe, correct, Brad's gone this week, and I think you're going to be at pre-planning, right?
Yeah, I already agreed to, yeah.
So, I mean, we're just going to move it through like that, and one of these two gentlemen will be up next if Brad or I are out. You know, we need to move that around appropriately. And Chris will be make sure we do that correctly, and I very much appreciate it. Okay, next up, superintendent's comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, my phone is buzzing incessantly in my pocket tonight as superintendents in the area set up an inclement weather text group. So we will be on watch for that. Tomorrow, we have sent out a reminder to staff about the protocol. We also have sent out a reminder to the community, to the parents, to just have them watching in the morning. Thank you, Emily, for sending that out. We had sent it out in November because we had snow on the ground, I think on the 5th of November, although it didn't stick. But we had a pretty mild winter, but tomorrow morning looks to be quite possible. A few things, we are working on the strategic plan, continuing to do that, moving into the setting of goals from principals, directors, and that work will move forward as we go into the spring. We're working on customer service right now. We have put out a survey on that. It's got a couple of bugs we're working out. And again, that is really the people in the buildings that interact with the district office and the district office, all departments, both here at Grand Prairie, just to determine as a basis for setting a goal, how we can get better at that. And so we'll work through that. And then I will hold my comments until the budget coming up. I have my goals report here coming up, but a few other things. We are now bargaining with classified staff. Michael and Brad are a part of that. Heather is, are you the chair or is Elisa?
Elisa and Ken Vellante are facilitating the meetings, and Helen and I are representatives of our teams.
And so we will be working on, this is a successor contract. The contract will expire in June, and so we'll be moving forward. We have done a salary analysis. Compensation is a priority for both groups. It certainly is for us as well. And we will be working towards an agreement that can move us up. One of the things that we see that when we look into the community, we are not always at a competitive wage, although we do carry a load, sometimes larger than just the pay scale between our PERS, our healthcare. And so figuring out what is right, what is fair, what will appeal to workers is going to be a very important part of that. In light of that, we will be bringing forward a couple of MOUs for you in the near future. Next board meeting or the March board meeting, we will be bringing MOUs that will adjust some workers' salaries. We have one for nurses. We are currently, when we are short nurses, we are paying contract nurses at exorbitant rates. And so pinning down and getting our services in our own payroll, I think could be a cost reducer right now.
Sorry, so when you said we're down nurses, what is our nursing requirement? How many nurses do we have? And how many do we consider full?
So I believe it is 8.
Okay.
LPN, RN, different education levels, and so there will be a gradated scale there.
But each of them count as one, obviously.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there's not one per school, they are assigned to several schools. And so what we are looking to do is, we can't go all the way to what these substitute nurses are. I mean,
Right.
that's just really expensive.
Right.
And so we believe that this can be a cost reducer to us as we go forward. The same thing is true of maintenance workers. We have contract signing electrician, we have journeyman electrician, we have people who are paid at wages that have not been changed a huge amount. We are very far below industry here. So getting continuity in some of those positions will be important. And again, if we don't have those people hired and we end up at, contracting out the service, we pay far above per hour just to complete that work. So we will look to do a correction there. We're looking at bus drivers as well. You guys have probably seen the cancellations and stuff. So how we can get to a competitive wage there is also really important. I do want to say this. we are going to put, in any MOU we would bring, we have the idea that we would correct their wages to have people stay. And then we will bargain again at the beginning, in the summer, and we will have new raises there. And we will want to be very thoughtful about correcting them now. And then, like if we gave someone a 6% raise now, and then we gave everyone a 6% raise, we would reserve the right to be able to look at how we adjust those people that we have just increased. And so, trying to be thoughtful there. We did have a local HVAC company come in on Friday and give us some idea about Central and what could possibly be done there. Ken Reese from our maintenance crew is an HVAC specialist, and I thought that the conversation was great about what could be accomplished in Central. I think it could be a more effective route for us to spec it ourselves and to look at that. The only downside is getting the equipment has a really long lead time, regardless of whether we would do it as an HMK run project or just go through a local contractor. I think the lead time for the equipment is 7 months. And so that precludes probably it occurring this summer, but I thought it was a reasonable solution. And they also informed us that it would take about 3 months of work in the building to truly actuate it. So we are still looking at a more extended time, but I thought that the means and methods made a lot of sense, and I think it can be more cost effective. I can't tell you the number yet, but I think it's worth pursuing.
Roger.
Is it still your?
I surrender, I'm done.
Thank you for this central update and setting that up. And I think you're right. I think that what we're going to get is a better place than where we were. I think it will be more cost effective. I also think that it will meet federal clean air standards, and there will be some net gain there that would have been absent in the latest proposal we received. We got some good people on the ground doing work, and this has been, done stuff over time, you intuitively know to go to the people that are doing the work when you're jammed up. And we've done that, and I will be sooner to want to go there next time we have a problem in the way of getting something done for what we want to get done. But the other thing I want to say is I can't. I will never be comfortable with just the term, the summer of '24, as it relates to Central and this project. And I've got to believe that they could do it one classroom at a time. We could set up a temporary classroom and get that done and not wait until everybody's out of the building if it's possible to do that. I can't.
Well, I would be very confident with, it wasn't Aura, Mr. Larcell, if they were to, both Aura and the owner, as well as Ken, if they were to, I think we could get an answer from them about how we might be able to do that.
Okay.
They just seem very, very competent.
Okay, and hopefully this also resolves the issue of the heat down in the basement and the lunchroom, and you can't create one problem without creating another, and that's the heating system at Central right now. So thanks. I'm this much encouraged.
Be a long road. All right, Mr. Chairman, I believe I'm next with the goals report. So we'll move through this quickly. I know, oh boy, that's tiny. just a kind of a general overview, and we're gonna be talking mostly about budget tonight, but you can see the 3 goals there in a rough order of time. Want to take you down to the 3rd one where it says budget. And we are right now working on budget projections. And you can see that that box goes to about the end of February. We will be preparing for the budget process. We will begin to have budget meetings in March with principals, directors, DLT, and cabinet. I think I mentioned the other day to the alt team that one of the things that I thought would be really easy would be principals could see their budget, and we could make that available to them pretty quickly. And for several reasons, that has not been very easily achieved. And so we will continue to work forward on this budget, finalizing it by about the 1st of May. I believe April 25th would be the day that we've kind of set as the cutoff, where we begin to print a budget and get ready for the public budget process, budget committee, and you guys. All the way through this, we'll be bargaining, so there'll be interaction there as well. We would be very foolish to not set about correcting salaries to a level if we didn't account for that in the budget. Let's go to the next one. So I wanted to share with you the budget goal again, just an overview of the process, talk a little bit about the challenges, and then some of our assumptions. Let's go to the next one. This is my goal. This is what you guys voted on as one of my 3. Sustainable budget that is accurate, clear to stakeholders and public, allows some long-range forecasting and planning, and reflects district strategic plan priorities. So some of that, I'm sure, is in the eye of the beholder. A quote from Winston Churchill: "There is no worse mistake in public leadership than to hold out false hopes soon to be swept away." I've been accused a little bit of being a storm crow. We shall see. Confront the brutal facts, yet never lose faith. Good to great. And of course, there's going to be some judgment and a lot of input about how this is going to come together. I intend that this will be a process where we are transparent enough that people understand what we all face together, and we're going to be resilient through it. Let's go to the next one, Emily. So right now, we have $9.9 billion assigned to us or allocated to us, and that's a 6.45% increase. And the allocation generally comes to us on a 49 to 51. The first year of a biennium, you get 49% of the money. Of course, your costs rise a little bit in year 2. They give you 51%. Enrollment is a challenge right now. Let's go to the next one. So this is a little bit of history, but in first quarter ADM 2019, we had 9,441 kids. We projected this year 9,122, and our actuals in January are 9,020. So we are down 102 students from what we projected to be, which is about just short of $1 million in lost revenue. Let's go to the next one. You guys will remember this. It is a positive in this picture. Not sure how much it is, but you can see down the big number, bottom right, purple, 13 million, almost $14 million in our ending fund balance. You guys have a policy that says we should be at least at 8%. The economy in the United States has seen growth and also a lot of price increases, but all projections show us to be moving to a more moderate rate of inflation and a more moderate rate of growth. And so we're faced with this aberration, and that will, of course, have to be a part of our bargaining. The idea that, you know, we do have to help people from the price increases that they have suffered, and then we have to figure out how to glide back into more reasonable rates of increase. So what you would not see is, because we did have 9% last year, you would not see a contract 4 years at 9%, because I believe that that would be imprudent to do, because we're going to see something that is far more like we have seen before. It may take a little bit of time to fade slowly to get to that level. Let's go to the next one, Emily. So the budget process, we are working on our second quarter ADM 2023. That's the 9,020 number. And we're gonna be looking at that in our programs and our buildings. We are looking at our teacher ratio to students. We are looking at our classified staff ratios to students. And then we are looking at the building budgets. And then we will put all of those into a overall budget and look at what costs are not there. And we'll figure out whether we are short or long at that point. We will begin to adjust staffing, as we build that first edition budget. And then we will have individual meetings with principals and directors between April 1st and 15th. That's gonna be a pretty busy time. One of the things we hope to do in that time is just absolutely allocate in detail. Each principal has, through a conversation, tells us where they want their money in their budget. So, again, we're gonna be rolling up our assumed costs, and we're gonna compare against the governor's budget. Step 2, we'll add in on top of that costs that we have not included in this budget. And then we're gonna do a lot of adjusting. It is quite possible that we're gonna see a co-chair's budget that is different than the governor's budget. And then again, it could be increased at some point in the legislative process, in the Ways and Means Committee, in the House, and in the Senate. Let's go to the next one. So bargaining is a little more complex this year. Classified, we understand that we have to have a successor contract. They do not have a PERS picked up in the district. Salaries are mid-range at their beginning wages, but they are low at the end. The hourly pay is low at the top of the scale when we compare to other districts. This is important. We are not necessarily looking to compare to dollars per hour wages locally. We have done this with other districts, but of course we have to keep that in mind. There are different places who hire people here in the community that may have some benefits. I think we're generally pretty good in comparison when you look at benefits. And you can see that we have a 6th and a 7th step. It's very common in school districts for people to get their steps for every year that they've worked. Our 7th step you don't get to until the 15th year of working. And if you look back up, you'd say, and it's kind of low, right? So there's things we can do here, I think, that can help people. Down at the bottom, 2 years ago, the teachers said the classified need help first. And so both are represented by the same union. So they added a Me Too clause this year, but they, I think, were great. And they said that the classified could go first. But they do have a Me Too clause, which is a COLA adjustment, which is minus what the classified get in a COLA by 0.5%. So they were bargaining, but we have to keep in mind that as well. So then the certified contract, they will be a full contract next year. Beginning teacher salaries are at the 60th to 70th percentile in the comparisons. Veteran teacher salaries at the top of the scale are at the 20th percentile. We will be working with both unions to adjust scales, not simply add a COLA to them. I don't think it makes sense to just reflect the scale without adjusting the scale. And we have been in conversation with the unions to do that. Because we have bargaining in 2 years and we want to be sustainable, we will have to take a look at what our ending fund balance is, what we can do so that we are smoothing all of these out over time. Currently, we have a shortage in bus drivers that yields missed routes. But we also have at least 2 schools that are in crisis because we do not have special ed teachers in the building. And so We will be wanting to discuss what we can do there immediately. And so we are kind of bargaining with both. And I think we'll need an approach to look at the wages that we pay our special ed teachers as well. And at the very end of that, we have to build an understanding that all increases won't be equal, right? It just seems to me like we are not adequately compensating a couple of groups there, and it is being expressed in the fact that we don't have enough, right? And so we need to be thoughtful about that. Go ahead, Emily. Thank you. So we got a model 2 years. Some of our costs will occur in 24-25, but don't occur in 23-24. We will need to account those in the second year. Conversely, we also have, we'll get a break on a couple of items as we go into the second year, and not just increases in year 2. And finally, our ending fund balance, we're not going to take all of that in year 1 because that will create just a problem in year 2. And hopefully we can build more models that are further out ahead. Let's go to the next one. So this is just a short list. I'm not sure I got everything on there. I thought I may not have given you the right one, Chris, but you can take a look. This district has been smarter than many. We did not put a ton of staff into the ESSER grants. Several districts in the state, those are one-time funds, and they have a cliff because they've carried a lot of people in those funds. We have heard at our listening session, and I believe I see it on the ground, custodial FTE. We have not really adjusted that number since the bond. We are converting to a new student computer system, Synergy, this summer, and we're gonna have some costs around the work done there. Possibly we could look at our groundskeepers as an FTE adjustment. We do wanna see work processes there in place before we make that decision. We have a Chromebook and desktop replacement plan. You'll recall last year the colleagues put $100,000 in it. That is simply not enough to get it done. We are looking at Maple Lawn Preschool and shouldering a little more cost there. New curriculum purchases. We have done 2 different groups this year, high school language arts and math K-12, and we have those costs. We are looking at food service costs. I think we heard Chris Fosh say the other night an apple is 50 cents. We are paying $1.85 per meal. If an apple's 50 cents, I mean, I think it's pretty hard to do the math beyond that and get a great meal. But that would cost money. Working with the foundation, we have some bookkeeping things that we want to clean up, 20% carryover and what to do about that. Exception time card, and one other one that I put on there, but I may not have shared the right one back with Chris. Last year in the budget, you guys had several negative balances that were shown in the ending fund balance, right? I think one was a football field that we're still paying off, right? And so those end up just being negatives that we carry on our books, and they take away from our ending fund balance. I don't think there's a lot of interest. There's probably some money foregone in terms of our ability to collect interest if it wasn't missing. But we'll have to work on that over time. And I believe that in the last couple of years, there has been some small amount allocated to those. And so we'll be working on what to do about that as well. Yes.
You're not done. I'll let you finish and then I'll.
Well, and so this is a staffing and hiring timeline. By February 28th, we want to determine our shortfall or excess. I am trying to get to March 15th to determine which positions we can post. Even if we were in a layoff situation, there would still be positions that we would post because we have some people who are specialists. No one else can do that work. I am certain that we will want to hire special ed teachers, for example. And so there's quite a bit of opportunity there still to hire. And so this looks from the 1st of March through to the budget process. We will meet with principals, directors, April 1st to 15th. Then we will reconcile and build priority lists for ads. There's a very common reason for this. Most districts do this. By April, we may not understand what the legislature will do fiscally. They may actually end up increasing some funds. And so you end up cutting to what you know, and then you build a provisional list of prioritized things that would come back in the event of an increase in funding. Most of the time, we can hear whether that is likely or not, and we'll move forward there. And then, of course, in May, we start with the budget process with the Budget Committee and the board. The timelines are approximate, so we know that we can't always count on when the legislature will move. Sometimes it is given funding on sign die, the last day of the legislature. And of course, the numbers are always in development. And we don't have the audit last year complete at this point. And so that can help us true up the numbers a little bit better. That's all I got.
Thank you. Roger?
Thank you. So the 9.9 billion, that's a statewide, for us, that means 6% increase in funds in that general fund. That's what I think I saw.
It gets more complex, and I will fall back on Jane if I need to. But the roll-up number that they start with and our costs this year are not the same. So instead of 49.51, we should have 51% of 9.3 this year. They actually play a game with us and they roll up on 50%. So we lose some portion of that. And so right now we see about a 2% increase in year one over this year.
And then the fact that we lost 102 students comes in and et cetera, et cetera.
Well, maybe not. Everybody else lost students as well.
Yeah.
And so I can't say 6%. I can say generally 6% over a 2-year period.
Yes.
Because I guess I understand why they're doing what they're doing, but it's 6% over a 2-year period. So in general, that's a 3% a year increase for that fund. Is that we're calling that the general fund? Does the common school fund, is that included in that, or is that a separate funding stream?
The common school fund is a separate funding stream, but it is not a large part of the budget.
Okay. All right, I'll leave the rest of the numbers and the budget stuff for a different day. But for the life of me, I can't understand why we're carrying negative numbers on facilities that we built years ago that have been installed and been used now for years and years and years. We own them. We spent the money on it. As an accounting matter or as a practical matter, why don't we zero those out?
Well, it would cost us the amount to zero out. I would rather pay down on a schedule so that more money is still available for kids next year, and that we could eliminate that over time.
I don't.
Well,
I'm usually pretty good. I'm just not connecting with.
so let's say we have 13.9 million, and let's say all those together, just for instance, I'm just giving you an example. If they're like 1.5 million, now all of a sudden we are down 1.5 million off of that ending fund balance, and our books are cleaner, but we are down off of that balance.
So based on the repayment schedule, you amortize the over time what the value would be, and we're taking a yearly incremental amount, we would,
We're not paying interest on it, so,
well, if we did, we'd be paying ourselves, right? So another way you're not, and I guess I'm better understanding it was, it was a loan, and we're being repaid over
Yeah.
a period of time, whether it's the life of that product or a 10-year period or,
yeah.
okay.
And we'll gather up the list of things. It is not just the facilities. I mean, there are several things in there that are negative, and we'll share those with you. That'll be before the budget. I remember them being shared in the budget because we were allocating some money towards them.
So how do we get ahead of that? So.
It's probably establishing a rate that will pay those down in a somewhat timely manner versus replacing them.
But you could have it the other way, where there was just a line item in the budget going forward, knowing that we're going to spend, we have these facilities and the cost over time are going to be this, and that would be a line item in the budget.
Yes, we can look at it that way. I would think that it would be just like our technology plan, where we say, here are the different debts that we have, and here's our time, and this is the total of payments to pay these off, right? So you will have a positive amount of money allocated
Wait.
to those.
And so we're doing that with technology because we are allocating a budget number before the expense actually comes due. And so that will be a constant and an annualized number.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And we'll have to move it up or down based on what happened, but it would appear we have not done that with ball fields.
I think this is watching the budget process last year, I think that there has been some allocation made against those balances. I do not know if it was attached to any long-term plan to get them down to zero. Would that be fair? I mean, those of you guys that remember that?
There was no plan to get down.
There's talk that like the cell phone towers, or the revenue from that, were supposed to go into a reserve account to replace or rebuy fields, and it's been kind of back and forth and wash, and yeah.
So we'll have to account, we'll think about that, and we'll show you guys what they are and what our plan would be.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Oh, I had a couple questions for him.
go ahead, Eric.
So on the, we don't buy into PERS for the classified employees.
They pay it themselves.
Well, like, one of the biggest benefits for me at Fidelity is you can take a promotion without pay, but your benefits get better, right? Your match gets better for your 401k. I mean, to me, investing in your retirement is a huge deal. While I understand your living wage is important too, but I don't even know if you can discuss this in public right now, but where's the witching rod on helping them with buying into PERS?
You're asking him a question, not me, but I want to answer it. Go ahead.
No, I want to hear your answer.
Well, I don't think the term, we're not contributing to PERS is not accurate. We're paying. There was a court decision that said, and it was while I was in office, but I don't remember, that employees had to pick up 6% of something, and different jurisdictions handled that differently. And in this case, GAP said, employees, you have to pick up the 6%, but that's not the total contribution of PERS. There's an employer rate. What's our rate?
I think
We're
that-
paying a percent of payroll to
Yeah.
PERS. My guess is it would be 20%? No, that's too
It's
high.
18%.
Okay.
So this is our legal obligation amount that the legislator said the employee needs to pick up then.
No, this is our rate on payroll. Go ahead, Heather.
Just the one comment I want to make is that we are in bargaining with the classified, and that includes the whole compensation package. And I just want to make sure we don't get ahead of ourselves to the conversations that will be happening, and that nobody's projecting anything or trying to influence anything. I
Clarification questions.
understand. It's just that can be a difficult or sensitive topic when you're in the middle of getting bargaining going. And that obviously compensation is a big compensation package. And I see Helen Jacobs, the president of GA ACE here. And I just want to make the comment that there is nothing other than you've got some questions, but those will be things that will be handled at the table. And we've got our board representatives there when we talk with our classified association about what does compensation look like. And so I'm just going to jump in for that.
Okay, thank you. So we pay PERS, certain amount. There's a rate. Jane shared it. The difference between our certified and our classified is the portion that Roger was speaking about is not paid by the teachers in the district. We picked that up. That has not happened. Whenever it happened, the classified employee pays that out of their salary, and that is withheld. And then, and that is the current state of affairs in the district. Right? And Heather is correct, we are talking about that and learning about that. And I think there's a lot to learn there. It's very complex because this is a system, PERS is a huge system. They look out at us sometimes in ways we don't know.
My second question, I saw different FTEs on the slide when you're talking about janitorial, custodial services. I didn't see PE instruction for next year.
So we are working on, that will be a factor in our planning. That's a good question. And that will be a factor in our planning. So we will bring to you the current state of the law. We will bring to you our plans around meeting that law. And that'll, of course, obviously have a budgetary consideration.
To become current with state law. Okay. And then you wrote a little bit about Maple Lawn in your brief to us, but can you explain a little more about Maple Lawn?
So 3 years ago, the city was going to drop the program. The district came in and took that, took the fiscal responsibility, but the city still ran the program. This year, the city manager, and I think with council's full knowledge, began to talk to us about what it would take to preserve the program. We have met with the city on at least 3 occasions to discuss that. And we are looking at a way that we could assume some of the duties of managing and yet still retain them as city employees in the near term, so that we end up not losing a 90-student preschool. I think preserving that is in both the city's interest and in our interest. And so it will not represent a massive increase. Lisa did the numbers, checked them again today. So we are looking to rearrange the managerial aspects of the partnership and yet maintain that preschool largely as it is.
Thank you.
I mean, it seems to make sense to try to keep preschool, no doubt. But if we're in a budget-tight area where we're looking at cutting K through 12 and our responsibilities are K through 12, I would have to say that takes priority. But I understand, we want to maintain it all.
I think that both the city and Lisa and Bonnie Dietrich, who runs our preschool, have done a pretty good job at being creative here. I don't think we're looking at someone just tossing a huge bag of sand into our lap. We're trying to smooth this, much like everything else in our budget.
Sure.
And one of the reasons we don't assume ownership is because we kind of slide some of the rules about a,
Probably not a good place to say that.
well,
So we have already established with one district preschool at Tangent that a district-run preschool is different than a preschool promise preschool. And so there is some latitude there. Obviously, we'll have to look at the transition in the out years, but that is, I don't think we're sliding it. I think one of the things, and I know we've talked about that at the Albany Area Leadership Group, that preserving preschools is really important. We've, in some ways, limited that market, and so hanging on to that. And they will contain, or the agreement will still contain that they own the property because they own the property. And they, I think by the grant that it was given to them, they have to keep the property. So,
Is there, we have a contract in place for the pool. Is there a contract in place with the city for the contract, for our
The MOU?
services?
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah. Good news too about the pool. The hot tub had been brought to me as needing refurbishment. They have secured a grant that will almost 100% cover the cost of refurbishment. And so, in all ways, just across everything, I think the city remains just a great partner.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Okay. Next up is board member reports. Michael, do you have something?
Yes, I do. Where are my notes here? I just want to say, it's already been mentioned, but I attended bargaining sessions all day on Friday the 3rd and Monday the 6th. Kind of just want credit for being there. There are many sessions to go, but it's all good. I was asked, and I had a great opportunity to visit South Shore Elementary, specifically the second grade classes. They've been learning about local government, and Mayor Alex Johnson and I were asked to speak by the teachers. It was great. One of the funner things I've been able to do. The class was already ready with questions for us, and they made some great proposals, some very reasonable proposals that I referred them to Principal Beltran to review. So I just want to thank teachers Maria Solis, Annalie Haberman, and Dila Guillen for having me and Alex. I'll point out, if you ever do something with Mayor Alex Johnson, he always carries a bag of the tokens for the carousel, so he's gonna upstage you. It was great to see Maria Solis. She was one of our, she worked in Sunrise, I think of Sunrise as an office person for years. And she was one of our Grow Your Own programs. We helped her get her teacher certificate, and now to see her in a second grade classroom, that was just outstanding. And so, yeah, those are just a couple activities I took part in. Oh, and I came back, wait a second, I came back after visiting, I came back to South Shore to go through the new classrooms that are being built there. Principal Beltran, Gary Dahlquist walked me through, showed me around. Those are gonna be great. I think it's 8 classrooms and with a covered walkway to access them. Just a great replacement to those modulars.
Thank you. Roger, you have anything?
I attended the South Albany versus Silverton basketball. I intended to attend both games Friday night. I went for the girls' game. They won it right at the end. Gotta admit, my blood pressure was a little high, and I didn't stay for the boys' game, but I hear it was at least as riveting. So a lot of enthusiasm and momentum at the high school right now at South.
Eric?
I attended the food service meeting, and it was good to meet our new COO. He's doing a good job chasing everyone down and getting answers for us. Corvallis and ourselves both had leadership changes in food service, and so it's something we're working on with that. I had a couple conversations with parents in the community between meetings, and I'd like to see maybe on a future agenda if we can have FACT do a presentation. I referred FACT a lot. I think it's an underutilized resource that we have in our district. So it'd be good to refresh the memory of the public.
Great. Okay, thank you. First, I'd like to say thank you.
Hadley.
What?
Did you give Hadley her report yet?
Well, I normally have mine, then the students do.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
I have this list here. I try to follow. I want to say thank you to Miss Nichols. Her second grade periwinkle class sent us some thank yous. These are the kind of things that actually at least for me, and I think the rest of the school board members, kind of make you smile and give you a warm fuzzy. So thank you very much for that. I had the opportunity to visit Calapooya this last Friday. I want to say thank you to Jennifer Stadstad for inviting me. I had a great visit. I got to walk around with their principal, Tristan, and their vice principal, Mark. They did a really good job of hosting me and walking me around and talking to me about the different challenges and needs. I really did appreciate their frank and honest assessment of where they were and what things we could do to help them. One of the things that I was really impressed with for them was they said they're being very consistent throughout their school with consequences and rewards, and that's all the teachers and all the staff, and that's really paying dividends both in behavior for them and academics, which is fantastic. Unfortunately, I think as a district, and Ms. Pierce will be presenting some things here shortly to us, we're still a little behind academically and behavior-wise from where we were prior to COVID, but a lot of schools are making a lot of positive improvement, and that's exciting, you know, and it's also, I would think, as a teacher or a staff member, exciting to see your workspace improve, you know, and feel better about the difference you're making with your students and mentoring. So that's exciting. I do want to talk a little bit about a topic that is a little bit more unfortunate, I would say, and I have concern for our youth, and it's drug use. And it really doesn't matter how you fall out on how drug use laws have changed in our state and how they're being implemented. The real thing that's important to understand is their impact on our youth, you know. And for example, you know, one of the things that we have, you can ask the juvenile director for the district, or not the district, the county, or talk to principals or any in our school or community-wise. Unfortunately, for example, marijuana is more prevalent than it has been in the past. And if you read any of the studies on how that affects the developing mind, it's not good, you know, and we certainly don't want to do anything but minimize that as much as we can, you know, because our youth need as much opportunity as possible to succeed, and that messes with their psychology, and it just makes it tough. So again, I want to thank Calapooya for allowing me to visit and to hear their concerns, and also kind of share with them their successes. And one thing that was really neat, and I've heard this from teachers that are there, is they have a really good team and they're working together, you know. And one thing that we all know, work can be hard, but if you have a good team that you're working with, that you enjoy working with, it makes it so much more pleasurable. You know, it just makes you smile. You know, you can. So I appreciate that, and they certainly have created that environment at Calapooya. Also, I want to welcome Dave Boland to the first board meeting I've seen him at. So it's great to see you. I have heard around the world kind of thing that you're definitely out there and getting seen and heard. So that's fantastic, and that's neat to see. Okay, so let's do student reports. Hadley, you're up first because we don't have to pick between.
Thank you. I want to thank Chairman Morse for reading West updates while I needed to be out. Since last board meeting, West students finished first semester finals and enjoyed a 4-day weekend. To start off this week is Spirit Week. Monday today was Jersey Day. Tuesday is Think Pink because of Valentine's Day. Wednesday is Tropical Day. Thursday is salad dressing. So if it's like ranch, then you dress Western. If it's French, then you're fancy. Blue cheese, you dress in all blue. And then Friday is PJ Day, which is personally my favorite because, I mean, it's Friday in PJs. There's a jazz concert this Wednesday. Jazz 1 and Jazz 2 competed in West Salem this weekend, and Jazz 1 ended up winning the festival for a 5A division, leading to qualifying for Jazz Band State in May. The Crush Can fundraiser is students can buy and send a Crush soda to a special someone in lieu of Valentine's, and all proceeds are donated to CARDVA. After the West versus South basketball games at South this Friday, West is holding the Blacklight Dance from 9 to 11. Youth and Government Conference is coming up from Thursday the 23rd to Saturday the 25th at the Capitol. Environmental had their training on the Emerald Ash Borer in Bryant Park on the 9th. There is the Polar Plunge on February 18th, where a recipient raises $50 to enter, and they get to jump into the cold Willamette to raise funds and awareness for the Special
to.
Olympics. To raise
Like how you said that.
awareness for the Special Olympics of Oregon. Swim had districts this weekend, and state is this coming weekend. I also believe the Latinx Club will be selling agua frescas and other food in front of the Blue Building on Valentine's Day. West Albany Cheer placed 5th at state this weekend. Hallway decorating is a Bulldog tradition that is back, where each class works together to decorate a hall at West with their air guitar theme. Speaking of air guitar, all classes have been working on their air guitar performances, and I'm excited to watch this Friday the other classes and perform in the juniors' air guitar as well. And this isn't related at all to West, actually, but I feel the need to mention it. There's the new Puss in Boots movie that's out, and I just have to say I haven't seen a cinematic masterpiece like that since Interstellar. And
Masterpiece,
I'm
very nice.
telling you, I feel like everyone in this room needs to go out and get tickets because it was really good. So, that's all.
Well done. Okay, I've been, oh yeah, go ahead.
So what song are you air guitar playing, Hadley?
So each class gets to have a theme, and the juniors pick Top Gun. So it's a bunch of the it's the soundtrack from Top Gun.
Of course, as it should be.
Playing with the boys. All
Video to follow.
Okay, I'm going to read the school board report from South. Member report, Serial. Valentine's Day treats being sold by MECHA and FCCLA respectively. Student members of the South Albany Youth Activism Club, ASB, and Student Council led an equity panel presented to staff members after school in an all-staff meeting last Wednesday. Went over ways to improve equity here at South and how to avoid divisive social cliques. Spirit Assembly planned for Friday during flight. Sadie Hawkins Sweetheart Dance happens this Saturday, running from 8 to 10, excuse me. Sports, another unified basketball game at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, February 15th. Would love to have board members and as much of the community there as possible. Swimming districts happened Friday and Saturday. In the preliminary races Friday, we had over 95% best time in all the races. Had 17 students qualify for finals, which means top 16. Final results, girls placed 5th overall, boys 7th overall. Girls relays got 3rd, 6th, and 3rd. Boys relay got 6th, 9th, and 8th. Swimmers going to state are Jacqueline Young, who was the district champ in the 200 individual medley and 2nd in the 100 backstroke. Zara Vera Dodge, who was 4th in the 100 freestyle and 3rd in the 100 breaststroke. Leaf Scoville, who placed 6th in the 200 individual medley. He's the only boy going to state, and he has on here, our girls kick butt. Girls relay for a 200 medley and 400 free. 400 girls free managed to beat West by less than half a second. Compete in state this Friday and Saturday. Cheer placed 3rd in state, brought home a new trophy to put in our newly redecorated trophy case. Basketball, boys and girls played stacked games against Silverton last Friday, 2-10 and 1. Plus, they play stacked games against this Friday against West at South, I believe, correct? And I believe South kind of this year earlier owned the court. They had a program sweep, so congratulations to South, and I'm sure West is hoping for a little payback this Friday. He has on here, we plan to dominate.
With all humility.
Right, without.
Career Day will be Thursday, 2/16. Each student will attend 3 Career Day sessions throughout the day to learn about different careers or opportunities that may interest them. It's a requirement for graduation and a great opportunity for students to get a peek at potential careers and options within the local and broader community. Library continues with guest speakers, this time focusing on speakers for Black History Month, includes, we already did February 9th and 10th. February 27th is Jason Harris, Financial Freedom, Wealth Management, Black History Month guest. February 24th, Indica Stevenson, counselor at South Albany High School. Pronoun presentation for students, Flight Flex. Charita Wilson, Real Estate Royal Party Perfection is February 27th. February 28th is Mayor Johnson. Red Hawks Rising, OSU tutoring and extended library tours continue for students seeking a quiet place to study or get help with their coursework. The spring band concert is at the Albany Performing Arts Center, 7 p.m. on February 28th. Okay. We're on H, committee, community, and school presentations. School reports, Oak Elementary School. Mr. Gardner.
Board members, it is that time of the meeting, and I present to you first year principal Jana Pierce from Oak. I look forward to hearing her presentation.
Welcome, Ms. Pierce.
Thank you. Hopefully, talk not too loud for y'all. So, Chair Morris, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to come and share with you about my amazing school. All right, so just a little bit about Oak. Our purpose is to educate and inspire all students to reach their full potential, equipped to be positive, contributing members of society. We believe that all kids can and do learn, and we want them to do that in a place that is safe and honest and kind, where they have positive relationships and can become lifelong learners. A little bit about Oak. Currently, we have about 275 students, give or take. 17% of our students identify as Hispanic, 70% identify as white, 10% identify as multiracial. Our class sizes range from 18 to 28, and currently all students receive free breakfast and lunch. We are transitioning to become a full Title I school this year, and so that's a lot of work on our part, but it pays off in additional programs that we can offer students. We have 17 classified staff and 22 licensed staff. We have 2 teachers at every grade level, and we have 1 specialized classroom. We are lucky this year to have a full-time dean. We are having a full-time counselor, which is brand new for Oak this year, and we also have a full-time instructional coach. So we have a great team of staff that helps support our teachers and students and the important work they're doing in the classroom. We also, this is the second year for Oak to have a part-time ELD teacher, so we have ELD in the afternoon every day, and we share that teacher with another school in the district. Students in Oak receive music 1 day a week. They receive SEL as a special 1 day a week. And then they have PE and health that comprise the other 3 days for their specials. So about what we're doing at Oak right now, looking at the district strategic plan and the ways that we're implementing it and the ways that we're looking at for our school right now, focusing on building relationships. Putting a lot of money into the bank with our students so that when we need to make those withdrawals and we need to do the learning and the hard conversations and the getting down to work, that we have that money in there to withdraw on. Implementing a lot of data-driven systems in our school. We're working really hard at looking at data from all points. Behavior data, SEL data, academic data, and how can we bring those together and look at the whole child, and how can we make sure that our systems are giving us equitable outcomes for all of our students. We have a new full-time counselor, which is amazing. She teaches SEL 30 minutes a week to each class, which is kind of unique to Oak. That's something they started last year, and we see that it really pays off. So not only do students get SEL in their classrooms with their teachers every day, but then they get an additional 30 minutes with our counselor. And then on top of that, our counselor also provides targeted skill groups for students who need a little bit of extra attention in lagging skills that we're able to identify with our DESA, which is a screener we give to kids to kind of show us where those really specific and targeted areas are. So we use that data, DESA data, Acadience data, EasyCUM data, and all those different points to look weekly, bi-weekly at where our kids are, what are they doing, how are the interventions that we're putting in place working or not working, and then how are we making those adjustments. Also new to Oak that we just started this month is we purchased a math intervention. The district doesn't currently have a math intervention for all schools, and we were able to, using some of our title money, purchase a math intervention. We screened our kids who are most at risk, and we've placed them into targeted math interventions, 20 minutes a day with, so small groups, 3 to 5 students, and we're excited to see what that looks like. We don't have any data yet on what has happened, but we know where they started, and we'll be able to monitor them and look towards what kind of progress we're able to see. Some challenges, a lot of the challenges that you heard already, right? Hiring, we want to hire some people, but if no one applies, that makes it a little tricky. Substitutes have seemed to be getting slightly better, and we're excited for EduStaff to roll out, but we always need and want people who want to come hang out at our really fun school with our super awesome kids. We need more time for collaboration. Our teachers love to work together, and they want to make sure that they're planning and pacing, but it's always hard to find the time. Our kinder classes are big this year. They are over 20. Unfortunately, we are out of space. And so even if I wanted to add a class, I am using every classroom, every closet, every nook and cranny and end of hallway that I can, and I just don't have anywhere else. So space is a big challenge for us right now. When people come in and need to do testing or additional things, it's tricky to find a spot that they can use. And currently my counselor, my dean, my behavior specialist all share one room for their office because we're just out of space. So there's lots of sharing. Points of pride, things that we're proud of and things that are amazing that are happening at Oak. We have a positive student culture. It's Spirit Week. I almost came dressed in my Superman leggings and tutu, but I figured I'd change. Today was Superhero Day. We have fun days this week and our students love to get into it. It's fun to see them all dressed up. Our behavior specialist does a Saturday fun run. So once a month, she is at the track at Oak, Saturday mornings from 9 to 11, and kids can come with their families and run and earn charms. And that's exciting. There's Stinger Steve. Oak has a mascot, and Stinger Steve comes out often for these sorts of occasions, and kids get excited to see Stinger Steve. In addition to the fun run, our PE teacher also hosts a hiking club. So on another Saturday that we don't have the fun run, our kids are able to join the hiking club, and they do a hike at a different location around the valley once a month as well. We've added the math intervention like I spoke about, and we're excited to see where that takes us. Also this year, our Dean of Students has implemented the game show. So students are able to receive positive behavior referrals, and once a week on Thursdays, their teachers submit those, and they are called up for the game show. The picture here is a box present stacking game that they played around Christmas time, and everybody wins a prize, but most importantly, we're acknowledging and highlighting and celebrating the positive behaviors that our teachers are seeing in class. And so not only do they get called up, but we share with their peers the very specific things that their teachers have outlined that they did. And so it's just another additional piece of our PBIS system that we use to really encourage the amazing things that kids are doing. We also have a really active PTA. There's a picture of our courtyard there. The Albany Public Schools Foundation gave us a grant to spruce it up and help it become an outdoor classroom. And our PTA has also helped out a lot with that. We had a mom spend 2.5 full days pressure washing it because it was that far behind. And so it's really nice and exciting to have families engaged in our school. Some other points of pride, I love data, and so I wanted to show a few things that are happening. I got lucky that we've just finished our second round of data in the schools, and so I have some to share. Yes.
Ms. Pierce, could you tell me what Swiss and DESA stand for?
I'm gonna explain
thank you
all
very
of
much.
them. So the first one's Swiss. That's our behavior data. That's where we put in our referrals that our students get, in-school suspensions, that's out-of-school suspensions. Any sort of behavior data that we have, specifically referrals, goes into this system. And so this shows you that from 2001 to 2002 to this school year, we've increased our green zone by about 7%. So we are moving kids from the yellow zone into the green zone, and we're having less referrals over time, and we're seeing more positive behaviors. So that is SWIS. That's the name of the system that we use to put that data into. DESA is our system that I was discussing that we use for targeting SEL. We put in student profiles. Teachers kind of look at students in areas where they have strengths. It's really strength-based, like what are kids really great at? And then it gives us a profile on how we can help build up some lagging skills. So when you see kids in the red zone, the green zone, and the blue zone, it kind of shows, are there deficits? Are they on track? Or do they have some really great strengths? And we can see from the beginning of the year till now, we've increased our green zone. So the kids who have real strengths in those SEL domains by about 8%. And I would say that a lot of work is done by our teachers and by our counselors to really target those skills that kids are needing, and to help us see that gain in kids moving from areas where they needed just a little more instruction to now they have a lot more confidence in those pieces. And then the one on the bottom is EasyCBM. EasyCBM is our math screener. So we use that to kind of show where kids at when they come to us. The F is for fall. So that shows you the grades starting in the fall where they were. And then the W next to it is the winter. So averaging out, approximately 8% of our students move from some or high risk to low risk from the fall to the winter. And that was before we were able to do our math intervention. So we're excited to see how that might change as we screen them one more time in the spring. The second piece is our Cadence. Cadence is where we do our reading screeners. So these are just snapshots. There's a whole lot of pieces, and each grade level will screen different parts of reading to kind of give a really broad picture. But I just pulled out a few, and selfishly, I pulled out the 35% kindergarten one because that's pretty awesome. But just kind of a snapshot at each grade level of the graphs on the left are where they were when they came to us in September, and the pie charts on the right are where they are now. And so you can see just across each grade level, and looking at a variety of different measures that we use, that's the increase that we've seen in reading. So first sound fluency, for first grade, NWF, nonsense word fluency, how many words are they reading? And then the ORF is oral reading fluency, how many words are they able to read correctly on a timed passage? The reading composite at the bottom just kind of describes the overall reading of all the pieces together. So just pulled a few pieces out to show our kids and our teachers and our staff are doing a lot of really hard work every day, and it's paying off, and we're seeing it not only in their confidence, but we're seeing it in the data too, which is exciting. So looking forward, something that I think we talk a lot about, progress monitoring, and we talk a lot about where are kids at and what is gonna happen. Progress monitoring is something that we do, and it's how we make sure we're on track. So, right, we tell you that, yeah, we are making sure kids are staying on track, but this is how we do it, and this is what it looks like for us. Every week, every other week, we pull kids on those same measures that we just looked at, and we continue to test them. And we look at, is what we're doing working? And if it's not, then what adjustments do we need to make? So the graph on the left just shows a small group of kids who are working on first sound fluency, and they've been working since September, and it kind of shows you their trajectory. And each of those points is a time when we've taken a snapshot of where they're at. And when it's working, we like to see those lines go straight up. And when they start to go down, then that's a time when, as a team, we ask, well, what is working? What's not working? What adjustments do we need to do? Do we need to do it more frequently? Do we need to change the group size? Do we need to change what we're teaching? But this is the data we use to make those decisions. So we're looking at this as a team constantly and consistently, and we're able to see where are kids at very frequently, and we're able to use that to help drive our decision making. This is another kind of example looking forward. So another piece from Acadience, our reading data that we can pull, is we can pull year over year examples. So looking at, these are just 3 examples, but thinking of the beginning of the year and the middle of the year, the bars on the left start in 2015 and they go all the way to this year. So one thing that we can see is that for the middle of the year, here's where our kids were a long time ago, in 2015, and here's where they are now. So while there were, Go back there. So while there were some COVID deficits that we saw, right, and some loss of learning, we're making those gains back. And we may not be exactly where we were the year prior to COVID, but we're making significant gains towards getting back there. And that's just exciting. Like, we can see it in our classrooms, and our teachers know it, and our kids feel it, but also being able to see it in data and in hard numbers and percentages is encouraging as well, because it's not just a feeling. Our data's playing out that, yeah, kids had some losses, but we're really quickly making those back up.
Jan, I have a question. You had a year start, obviously as a COVID year, where we didn't get the data, and then we were able to get it mid-year. Is that-
Yeah.
Yes, so this whole was the time in COVID where we just had no way of testing kids. They were at home, and there wasn't a way we could very accurately or easily pull data, but then we were able to get kids back in the building somewhat, and we were able to come up with ways to do some testing over virtually. So then that's why middle of the year you see that bar show back up.
Thank you.
Other things that we're looking forward to, improving attendance. Attendance is hard for everybody right now. We want kids to be at school. We want them to want to be at school. We want it to be a fun and exciting place. We don't want them to come sick, so we know that that's hard this year. We've had a lot of illnesses, but just encouraging them to be there and helping parents when we can, helping find ways and strategies to get them into class when possible. We want to encourage and celebrate expected behavior. The game show's awfully fun, and if you're ever bored on a Thursday, please come by because it's super awesome. In fact, this Thursday night, we're hosting a family game show night. So if you would like to come to a family game show, that's this Thursday night. So just continuing to work on our staff and community collective efficacy. We know that working together is what gets us the best results. And so we want to put in the time and the effort to do that, whether it's in our PLCs or with our community. How can we do that to work together to get results? Again, continuing with purposeful instruction for those lagging social skills, we are seeing really good results with those targeted small groups and with the whole group instruction. And so just continuing to be purposeful about that and continuing to refine our small group instruction and data collection. We really do see that it helps drive what we're doing. And so the more we can hone in on and refine those pieces little by little, the bigger gains we can see. Some things students had to say. Logan said the adults are helpful and nice. Tanya said this is the best school because everyone helps each other. Malachi said there's the perfect amount of work in recess, spoken like a true third grader. And Brendan said the kids are so nice and everybody plays with me. So I'm just really proud of my school. I am lucky to be surrounded by people who are amazing at their job and who work really hard for kids, and the data bears that out, and I'm excited to see what things we can do for the rest of the year. What questions do you have for me?
Jana, you did a really nice job explaining, probably in depth, the data, kind of what that system looks like, and what it looks like in terms of the data that's available and what elementary schools do. Can you describe, so what is that system, what's it called, and then how your teams work together on that? Because I think it was just a really good illustration of the system in elementary and the system that we're implementing in middle school, but we're just young in the process.
Yeah, so MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support, looking at where are our kids at, where do we need them to be, and what are we gonna do strategically along the way. In elementary school, we have 100% meetings 3 times a year where we look at all the data after we've tested kids, and we do that for reading, we do that for math, we do that for DESA in our school, and we look at where are kids at, and then we make some really broad decisions for our core instruction. Like, what are we gonna do at the core to make a difference for all these kids where they're at? Then we also narrow it down to 20% meetings where we meet more frequently and we look at the group of kiddos that are struggling in each of those areas. And we sit down with the team and we look at what interventions are we giving them, what's working. We look at those progress monitoring graphs, like, is everybody going this way or are we going this way? If we're going this way, why are we going this way? If a lot of us are going this way and some of us aren't, why is that? And then we make really strategic decisions about those specific kids. So everybody, the 80% that's going the way we want them to, we look at them a couple times a year, and then the kids who really need extra instruction, we look at them more frequently, and then we really target our instruction and the frequency and the intensity of what we're giving them and the programs we're using based on what we see from the data.
Thank you for that. Awesome. And then DESA, Jana explained that's available K-8, and that is a screener for social emotional, but just as an awareness, so the
competencies that it looks at that you screen. Skills are things like social awareness, decision-making, self-awareness, self-management, goal-directed behavior. So it's skill-based for each student, and teachers do that, so thank you.
Question for you. Your counselor is teaching 30 minutes a week in classes. What is the curriculum that they're presenting?
She uses a mix of district curriculum. There's certain lessons that the district has set out that all kids need to be taught. She also uses some zones of regulation, which works with kids on regulating and identifying their emotion. She's worked in elementary schools for quite some time, so she has some lessons that she's kind of adopted over the years that are really based on those competencies and things we see that all kids need, right? Like self-control, peer relationships. And then she also does some sources of strength also, which is another program that works with kids on self-regulation and ways they can use their community and the people around them and the things that they know to help support them. So kind of a variety.
Thank you.
Roger?
Just, wow. I don't think I've seen either the data in that format or the results. And I think one of my fears of being on this board, and I think communities and maybe everywhere, is that we don't want the kids that were most affected by COVID to carry that throughout their lives and to be behind in society or life because of what grade they happened to be in when COVID hit. And that is just a very inspiring presentation, and hats off to you and the whole team. I do have a question. When my son went to Oak, they had what they called a mileage club where they kept track of kids. Does that still exist, and are kids still using
Yep.
it?
So they can use their mileage club cards when they come, if they come to the fun run on Saturday. And also, the SEL is led by my counselor and my behavior specialist together. And then once every quarter, instead of an SEL lesson, they have a mileage club day, and they also go out and do mileage club and run, and they can earn the charms and stuff then. So kids can earn it outside of school if they come with their families. They can also earn it inside of school a couple times a year.
Very
and they
good.
love those charms.
Very good. Keep up the great work, and our thanks to your team at the school.
Eric?
Just to echo Roger's comments, I have a parent I work with a lot, and she's always complimenting the PTA and activities at Oak. It means a lot to her. It's very deep in her feelings. So you have free breakfast and lunch. Do you know roughly your participation rate?
We count numbers every day, and I would say really roughly like 75%. Kids really seem to like it, and they are little kids, so the portions are pretty acceptable for them, and they aren't super particular. But we have a lot of kids who eat it, and a lot of kids who eat both. They eat hot lunch and the cold lunch mom pat, so they have both options.
Do you have a salad bar?
We do.
Okay.
It's back for the good or the bad. With the littles, it's back.
And if there's one thing the board could help you with at your school, I know you listed quite a few things and we all took notes, but if there was that one thing, being another counselor or improving your bus loop, anything.
I mean, it's the hardest one, right? But it's space. It really is hard for my dean and my counselor and my behavior specialist all to share a space when they need to be doing some pretty intensive work with kids. Also, my kinder classes were really big this year. They were hovering around 25 at times, which isn't our goal, but I have no more rooms. And so I don't know that's not an easy fix, right? But really, I'm out of space. I'm using every closet. I have groups at the end of halls. I give up my office a lot for things because we just really have no more space. But I know I'm not the only one, so.
Thank you, ma'am.
Michael?
No, outstanding.
I would just like to say thank you. That was a really great presentation. And I think, as you heard from most of the board members, we want to move more towards that data-driven, where's everybody going? I would love it. It allows us to see the improvement or non-improvement, and that's really important for us as an overall. And I know I've talked to you, Superintendent, and I know the rest of us all really want it to move that way. And I think it's good for the public to know it. And all schools are different, and we understand that. Really we're looking for improvement and all, not necessarily comparing one school to the other. So thank you very much for all your hard work.
And this is work that all the elementary schools are doing. They have this data and we use it all the time. So we're happy to share it and we're excited to share it. It's our heart's desire and what we go to work for every day is to make sure kids make up the learning loss, and kids who don't have learning loss go even higher. Like, we want our kids to all be successful, and that's what we do day in and day out. And so we're really happy to show it and brag about it a little bit because we have a lot of people working really hard.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Did you have something in?
Just a couple of comments. Number one, Oak Elementary, Calapooya, our south central in our district, southernmost elementary school. Those schools are the closest to the epicenter of future growth on the south side. There are two places where we're going to grow a lot. One is south of the roundabout by Timber Ridge, and the other one is along Ellingson Road. And I think we need to think about the construction excise tax as an outlet as we go down the road here. But I think, it's disquieting a little bit to see the number of kids in Calapooya and to hear Jana talk tonight about that load. And I know we've talked, I think Mr. Saxton last year said that Tangent could handle some of that. But we're looking at some period of time before we would go out again. And so we need to be very thoughtful and prepared for that. The CET would probably be where we would pick up additional space.
And those are funds, Jane, that we kind of keep separate, my understanding. We kind of track those.
And you guys had taken an action here recently.
Yep, we sure did.
So
So
I don't want to dwell on that.
I know those who weren't that in favor of that, wanted to make sure that we saw those funds and that we are transferring those to actual schools and buildings. And so that's important that we track that money and we show the public that that's where it's going.
Yeah. So I just want to compliment Jana for her work. And I think we have seen principal after principal come up here over the last couple of months and greatly expand your own knowledge about what's going on. And I think we can have some confidence in that. But I'm just so impressed with Jana as a first-year principal to be such a seasoned veteran. So thank you, Jana.
Thank you very much.
One more thing I might add. Heather, do you want to just talk a little bit about the conversion to EduStaff and what we see in terms of numbers of subs showing?
Sure. One, just a shout out and thank you to all our current subs who have been going through the process to become EduStaff employees. That is the transition because we'll be working with EduStaff, and they've come in and needed to work on things, and it's being hired again. It's all happening. So I just a shout out to our current subs doing that. March 6th is our transition date to where March 5th is our last payday, or our last day that we then are absorbing as pay, and the work that they do from March 6th forward is paid by EduStaff. One of the things we get is an update in terms of how many of our current subs have completed it, how many are in process, maybe subs they haven't heard from, so we can reach out personally. Do they have questions or anything? But they're also letting us know how many new people already, through their system of EduStaff, have identified gaps. Our district is a place that they would work. So current EduStaff substitutes, both classified and certified, can kind of click on gaps as a place that they'll work. And we have, in addition to our current subs moving into EduStaff, over 100, it was 102 or so, that have already identified us as a district that they would sub for, that aren't currently ours, which was the goal, is to open up and have more. The last, and this was a couple weeks ago, I think we had about 30 individuals who had not yet started their paperwork process. Again, we reach out to them. It could be people who haven't been working that often with us anyway and maybe don't want to go through the process. But on the whole, the goal would be that we have access to more substitutes to help us. And we appreciate that transition.
So we have a substantial net increase that will come online as we go there, and hopefully that will continue
You'd
to.
have at least 70, because you have 100 and some odd number that say they want to teach here, and you've had 30 not fill out the paperwork to join.
And that would be both classified and certified. So I don't know the split with teachers, but it's increasing our teacher pool, which is our biggest push, because we have to have people in front of the students. Principals, they've been doing a great job. If a classified is missing somebody, there is a little bit of shifting that we might be able to do and pick up, but on the whole, it's doing what our goal was to increase our substitute pool, and we're just in those final stages.
Thank you.
Okay. I kind of forgot to say this, so I want to say this. I know everyone who's on gets the reports or the emails. We always see buses being canceled. But looking into the numbers, our staff is doing great. I mean, for how undermanned they are, and all of them picking up, and, the person that's in charge of the bus barn and the mechanics and everyone going out and driving. I certainly do appreciate, and I think we all do, the extra work they're putting in to get our kids to where they need to be, and I think that's important for us to say that. I know that staffing isn't where it needs to be, and that's really what drives the bus routes that are canceled. And I know every bus route that's canceled hurts us all, the thought of a kid having a hard time getting to school, but it has nothing to do with the fact that the people that are doing the work of getting our kids to school aren't giving it their best. It has everything to do with numbers, and that's part of the work that our superintendent's doing to make a competitive wage and get people in here. And I know, Dave, you're out there doing it too. And so very much appreciated, but I think it needs to be acknowledged that the people that are doing that work are doing a fantastic job. They're just outgunned at the moment. So thank you for doing that, and keep up the hard work, and hopefully we'll get you some help. Okay, next up, consent agenda. License, do I hear a motion?
Move to approve personnel license as presented.
I second that.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I2, personnel classified.
I move to approve personnel classified as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next to old business, nothing on there. Reports, nothing on there. Bond business reports, nothing. New business, so now we're into board policy, GBL, personal records, and Mr. Superintendent, over to you.
So these are not action items, these are readings, I believe. Chris, is that correct? So you're getting to see them, and if you'll take a look at this, this had a small change on it, policy GBL. And again, these come to us from OSBA as recommended updates. Do you guys have any questions about that?
None.
Okay, let's go to the next one then. Layoff and recall of licensed staff, GCPA. And this is just another requirement for additional language to the policy. And I'm just shifting over to pull the policy up. Hang on just a second. You can see it there. Does anybody have any questions about that? You will note, this is a pretty important one. Even without this policy, the law now requires, and so we would have to do it anyway. If you take a look down at the bottom, the district shall consider cultural or linguistic expertise and seniority, and may consider merit and competence in accordance with Oregon law. So straight seniority is no longer the only rule that we will do that by. And it's particularly important, I think, this year. JEC, admissions of students, essentially requires us, if a student is a foster care child, that we must enroll them on that day without records and support them as a student. There's no waiting to see where they come from, or if there's a transfer policy. If they are brought by a parent or foster parent to the school, we must enroll them immediately.
I have a question about that. I guess it would be a hypothetical. They then enjoy the same rights as it would relate to eligibility for sporting activity?
Yeah, I mean, they would have all the rights of a student in the district, and we would. treat-
Immediately.
Yes.
And the folks in Wilsonville buy into that, and there won't be forfeits to come later?
I think most of the kids who would fall under this guidance would be students that we would probably be supporting more than like an athlete transferring or anything like that, because it would be a foster parent thing. So kids could still come to our district, though, through a transfer process or their parents moving or an interdistrict transfer and compete in sports, right? They would still be able to do that. This just says that a student who has been placed, for example, in a foster home, can become a student immediately, so they're not without that support.
So that's great, and I completely support doing that timely and efficiently. And I'm hoping that that's all inclusive and it covers that other component of it.
They
That we
are
don't
able
have
to do that?
That we don't have control over, right?
Yeah.
If a kid shows up, and the best thing I could do is get a kid on a ball team.
Yeah.
Friends and active and participating, and I don't want it hung up for 4 weeks or whatever that process they sometimes.
Yeah.
I've just seen over time, things get hung up, and it was not in the best interest of kids for that to happen. So how do we ensure that? You're already very confident that that's the case? Or do we need to verify that with USAA? That is a matter of practice.
I think that with this law, it would be a matter of practice. It would be a matter that you would prevail on with the OSAA, because they would face that same requirement. I mean, they would face eligibility.
This
with the same
policy is
requirement.
changing due to law, correct?
Yes.
So,
I guess my question is, ours are changing and we're doing it, are they? And
Westland Wilsonville?
yes, the folks in
OSAA.
Wilsonville.
Yeah, and they would, typically the OSAA is going to adjust, and they're not going, like, if they were to fight, they would lose that. And so I don't think this is a,
You don't think it's an issue? Okay.
I think it's
I'll
a
wait for my
non-issue.
issues. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I know they
Go
don't
ahead.
like us to change these. In the second to last paragraph, it talks about military transfers and that you need to provide like proof of residency within 10 days. Being a military veteran myself, sometimes you're living in a hotel for 10 days at your new assignment. Some assignments you can be reassigned overnight. I would make a proposal to the board that we change it to 30 days. And that might it might give some time for parents to breathe and provide that proof of residency. They could be coming from a state where you can just walk in and say, here's my kid, teach him.
From my experience, that would make sense too. I don't know what the law is, but I mean, if it's a military transfer, that seems pretty automatic to me.
Since we're still in the reading, we can research that.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Mr.
it just makes sense. A lot of times you don't get sent with all your stuff when you get sent by the military. Believe it or not.
So suspected child abuse, reporting requirements. JHFE, it's the next one on the list. And if you take a look at that one, you can see that the law has broadened any child. It would not just be a student within a district. You guys are mandatory reporters, as are the adults in the buildings. And the definition is person could include adult, student, or other child. And so it just broadens that when in doubt, consult us, make a report, and it just requires us to report broadly. We'll look into that. That's it.
M5 is next, the ESD local service plan, and you're up again for that.
Yeah, Superintendent Everest came and presented that. You guys have a link to that in the board that links out of this. And this is the local service plan that we, Tier 1, everybody within all the districts get that. Tier 2, we agree on with the ESD, and I believe this would be up for a vote at the next meeting.
Okay. Future agenda items, we have nothing, and then other business, informational only. This just goes through the same thing, does it not? Oh, it's the ARs.
Yeah, it's the AR, and it's proposed, and it probably deserves some close reading there. You can see that in the AR, there are more precise definitions of what was stated in the policy. It, for example, defines closely cultural and linguistic expertise. It defines competence. And if you scroll down even further, in-district language, meaning a heritage language or language other than English that is spoken, for example, by 5% or more of the students enrolled at the school, right? So there are some pretty clear procedures and definitions that we will be adhering to should we end up in a layoff situation. We are building right now our classified seniority list. We will also have to add these definitions into that list, right? So that we don't end up with a bunch of people that were recently hired that have these skills versus a more senior group that doesn't have this skill. We are able then to work, I think it helps us to work towards a representative workforce in good times and bad.
Okay.
And then finally, you have the administrative regulation, the AR, that will cover the reporting of child abuse as well. And again, there's definitions in that.
Any questions on any of those? Okay, next board meeting's February 28th at 6 o'clock here. We have a pre-planned meeting at February 17th. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Before you do, I gotta, just one more thing. I watched a special on John Madden the day before the Super Bowl, and I feel a little like him here, bursting through that commercial. But I want to go back to the excise tax, and I want to go back to Oak and the great momentum they have, and the inadequacy of the ability to create any real plan that is going to provide the capacity we need and the time we need it to do the work, to allow for what we're having at Oak now, because we swamped that school with another 100 kids because we don't have anything else, anywhere else to put them. That isn't going to work. And the excise tax, to be clear, will generate what for us a year? A couple $1 million at most? Probably less than that.
Yeah, I think that the number, correct me if I'm wrong, but that number was coming in at like $600,000 or $700,000 a year.
Yeah.
And by moving it from $1 to $1.25, you're increasing that number by 25% at the most.
So I'm sorry, what are you going to build for that? I don't,
Modulars.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's-
Modulars on wheels in the more old fashioned, because the 5 classrooms we built over the last couple of years at Nays and Waverly were beyond that budget.
So we're-
So we're Band-Aiding that.
okay, so we just shouldn't have any visions that the excise tax is going to, that we're going to put this in a pot of money and it's actually going to be able to build a school somewhere. Because
Absolutely
that's not happening. So then the other, I'll ask. When the state mandated kindergarten, and that was a smart thing to do, did they provide us the funds to build the classrooms that would go with that? And did we spend those doing that?
Funding for the classrooms, that was a gift on the last day of the legislature when they chose to go full-day kindergarten. It did not come with funds for the buildings.
Okay, so they're sitting on a whole bunch of rainy day funds that maybe they could do some type of bond program or of matching funds or something, but just send us the money and
They do have a facility fund, and it is, districts may apply for that. It does match, for a district our size, it does match $8 million. So if we had a $20 million bond, they would give a full 8 to that. It is an application process. Not all districts get it. It is given conditionally. They will award you that money if you pass a bond, but they will tell you in advance so that you can campaign in your district with the knowledge of that match.
We did receive some match in our last one.
so is the match only if you go out for bond? What if you get the money another way? What if we got it by drawing a circle around the south part of Albany there where we think the growth is and we form an urban renewal district? I
That
say
would
that
be
in all
outside the
seriousness,
process, but-
because what we're doing isn't gonna work. We need some outside the box thinking on how to deliver facilities to kids and educators in the time they need them.
I think it's an important point, especially for elementary, because one of the things that you've brought up before around enrollment, people might look and say, oh, well, we're down students, then why do we have this problem in elementary? And it's twofold. One, this past year, we're actually up elementary students compared to our projected. And two, the smaller you want class sizes in elementary, the more classes you have to have, right? And so certainly we had kindergarten classes at half-day kinder, but when it was full-day kinder, the number of kindergarten classes doubled. And then the smaller, if you don't want 30 kids in a class, then you have to have more classes. And so the increased enrollment at elementary and the smaller you want class sizes necessitates the need for space and more teachers and more classes.
So there are several pinches I see coming around this, particularly in that region.
Just, thank you for the indulgence.
Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
I'd second it.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.